Welcome to this episode of The Good, the Bad and the Odd One Out with your host Mark. Today I'd like to put two films that I didn't intentionally line up for this, but it just happened to have a similar theme to them. Theme being Satanic masks. First film was called Black Sunday, also called Mask of Satan. It's made in 1960, an Italian film with an actress called Barbara Steele, who's got a really interesting face. She's kind of very striking looking. She can kind of look odd, and she can look beautiful, and she can look both at the same time. And she's kind of interesting. She plays kind of two roles. She plays this like witch, horrible witch, and her face kind of suits that. And then she plays this kind of virginal type, and her face suits that too. She's kind of interesting that way. It was an Italian film. I think it was Mario Bava's first film. Horror film, not very scary, but interesting. It starts with Barbara Steele tied to a stake as a witch, and she is a witch for sure because she curses people. But in the end, they're going to try and burn her at the stake. But first thing, they put this metal mask in front of her face and hammer it on. So it's spikes going into her eyes and face. And it's pretty horrible, actually. This film, to me, it's a dubbed film. The version I saw was dubbed, but it's a really good visual film. It's not scary, but it's got some beautiful visuals. It's interesting. It's black and white. It makes good use of that black and white. And because it's a visual rather than a character film, as it were, the dubbing doesn't matter that much, and it's not bad. It's not bad dubbing. And I rather enjoyed it. It kind of looked to me like it was almost like a precursor to AIP's kind of Edgar Allan Poe films, like Tomb of Lygia and so on. It had that kind of vibe. It looked like they were riffing on this, to me. Though I think this delivered better. Some of those AIP films, they kind of are a letdown. They don't quite deliver. They promise things and do a lot of setup, but they never quite deliver. But I think this does. It's kind of interesting. It was a fairly short film, 80 minutes, and I rather enjoyed it. It was definitely worth a watch. It's on Netflix US, and it's worth a watch. I've also got it on DVD as well. I bought it years ago. But I actually did watch it on Netflix. I'd forgotten I bought it, and then I found it after I'd watched it on Netflix. Netflix wasn't great. It would, I think, a Blu-ray, a DVD, or a decent Blu-ray transfer. This will be really, significantly better than the one I watched. But the one I watched still wasn't bad at all. There were some quite drastic things in it. It was banned in the UK for 8 years before it, even to adults, because there's like maggots crawling out of flesh and stuff like this. Spikes going into people's flesh. I enjoyed it. It was rather good, and I'd recommend it for a watch. Now, by strange coincidence, I happened to get another film, which I think I heard about. I had recommended on some other podcast because it was in my love film sort of queue, and it came, and I'd completely forgotten. I put it on my queue. It's called The Shrine. So I thought, what the hell? I'll have a look. Made in 2010, Canadian horror. And it starts with a guy getting a mask hammered onto his face. So obviously there's connected. And I was quite surprised at that, because I wasn't expecting to be anything like the film I'd just watched the day before. So it was a bit of a surprise to see someone getting another big metal mask hammered onto their face with a big hammer. Anyway, then the film kind of meanders and goes off point, really. Well, it goes off the boil for sure. There's an actress in it she's the main actress. She's not very good. She's all right to look at, and I can't pinpoint what it is. She just doesn't. She looks like someone acting rather than someone who we shouldn't be aware if they're acting. And she's got a male lead too, who's a photographer who is a better actor. You don't have that sense of here's someone acting while you're watching him. But the dialogue was also pretty poor. In fact, there was a few times during the first 20 minutes or so, half an hour, where I thought, I don't think I'm going to bother watching this. And the only thing that kept me watching it was it had a very short runtime, 80 minutes, a bit like Black Sunday actually. Anyway, I kept watching, and then they were investigating the disappearance of this hitchhiker backpacker American, who was the guy we saw at the beginning getting a thing hammered onto his face, and the trail leads to Poland where they go. Things start picking up at that point. It starts getting much better, especially when they encounter this weird bank of fog that's written about in this guy's journal. And there's something in there, and it looks a lot like the statue in The Exorcist, of Pazuzu. It looks a bit like that, but more like a sort of weird demonic leopard kind of thing. And once they encounter that, things start going really right. Now, at first I thought, this is yet another film that feeds like the idea that Americans going abroad are putting their lives in their hands, which, we've seen it in Taken and Taken 2 and various other films, Hostel, where the feeling is you go outside America, you're going to die somewhere. I thought it was feeding into that, but actually it has a quite nice twist that I didn't see coming, actually. I thought it was, I kind of had a suspicion, but I knew the film's going to go one or two ways, but I had a really strong feeling it was going to go the obvious way, and it didn't, which is quite nice. I don't want to spoil it, because I think it's worth a look. For 80 minutes of your time, if you put up with the first half, the second half does get significantly better. And the first half, I was thinking, this must be a 15, because you didn't see that much, apart from the beginning scene. But I checked it, and it was an 18, and sure enough, it gets to be, earn its 18 in that second half. But the last half an hour is really quite intense, and I enjoyed it. I mean, it wasn't great. It's only a 60 out of 100, whereas, say, Black Sunday's, I would say 70 out of 100, maybe. And Black Sunday is somewhat of a minor horror classic, whereas this isn't. This is just a horror film. But there were bits in it that I enjoyed. I think it was worth seeing for the last 15 or 20 minutes. I won't forget it in a hurry. I kind of enjoyed it. It was very odd watching a film about a satanic mask and then putting another film on cold and it having almost exactly the same opening sequence of someone getting something hammered onto their face, because that's not a thing you see in many films. It was kind of tickled my fancy to have that as a connection, so I'll call this one the demonic mask pair. They're not connected in any other respect. A couple of decent films. I'd definitely recommend Black Sunday, and if you've got a spare 80 minutes and you feel like just watching something, The Shrine isn't bad too. Okay then, bye from me.